In the headlines, Peter clears the air on corruption allegations controversy in Labour Party. Nigeria's headline inflation rises to 29.9% in January. 2 police officers dismissed over 3,000 extortion money. And on the front, an Arab group pushes for ceasefire in Gaza. Hello and welcome to the news update at this hour. My name is Martia Umar. Thank you for joining. Now the news in detail. In a press conference held in Abuja today, presidential candidate Peter Obi, alongside his crowdfunding management team, refuted the allegations of misappropriating campaign funds. Peter Obi emphasized transparency and accountability by announcing the engagement of a reputable audit firm to investigate any claims of misappropriation, ensuring the proper utilization of the funds raised. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman was there in our report.
Embattled National Chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, was recently accused of diverting and mismanaging campaign funds for the 2023 presidential election. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, was also accused of misappropriating the sum of 3.5 billion naira donated for the campaign. The currently credibility and integrity crisis in the party has engulfed key players, including the team lead for the campaign crowdfunding, Aisha Yusufu. To set the record straight, the allegations diminishing the Labour Party's reputation. The Peter Obi presidential campaign team is now opening its books to the public as a transparency measure to address unverified allegations.
In fact, one of the people who mentioned said we received about $150 million. Let me categorically state it that all the funds received directly or indirectly from diaspora is not up to one. It's about not up to 1% of what is mentioned, and this, some of it are part of what have been exchanged and given to Aisha.
As they roll out figures of the money generated for the campaign, the crowdfunding team also provided lines of procurement and other expenditures.
What we received specifically was this particular amount, let me repeat it once again, 595 million naira, 976,000 naira, 994 naira. We also received 800 million naira from the candidate himself. And I know some might wonder, how did we know that these monies were from the candidate? How were we able to differentiate them? These were monies that were put in by the candidate that were supposed to be used to pay for the polling agents. So we knew that they came in 4 tranches of 200 million naira each, and that was what gave the total of 800 million naira from the candidate.
We also adopted a framework to ensure disbursed funds were used judiciously. Very important. We want to ensure that when we give resources to vendors, people who worked on the project, that they use these funds judiciously. We adopted that process. Then fund disbursements were made with approval from His Excellency and told our signatories to provide constant oversight. So whatever decision we took in terms of disbursing funds, we are made with the full acknowledgement of His Excellency and also signatories to the account. So no funds left the account without the approval of His Excellency.
The Labour Party has been embroiled in a series of controversies since its outing in the 2023 elections. Its power struggle from within the party led to factionalization of its leadership structure. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The House of Representatives have urged the Federal Ministry of Works to prioritize and ensure that adequate budgetary provision is made in the 2025 budget estimates to comprehensively address the completion of the abandoned Aila-Ayede Efire Road, Spur, Ondo State in Ogun waterside. The motion, sponsored by Honorable Joseph Adigbesa, observed that the projects were initially designed to improve the living conditions of Nigerians in terms of the construction of roads and bridges, electrification and power improvement, the provision of water education, and health facilities. The lawmaker also observed that the successive administrations have neglected this project because of the assumption that they were not initiated by the government or did not fall within their policy direction without considering the impact of those projects to the lives of Nigerians and public funds already expended on them. He called on the contractors involved to return to the field and complete the project and report back within 4 weeks and for the legislative action be taken.
The House resolved to urge the Federal Ministry of Works to authorize and ensure that adequate budgetary provision is made in the 2025 budget estimates to comprehensively address the completion of the project, and also resolved to mandate the committees on works and Federal Road Maintenance Agency to conduct an overview assessment of the abandoned projects, to include the scope of work, date of commencement, contract value, amount spent, and stage of work, and ensure that necessary measures are put in place to ensure Reynolds Construction Company Limited return to the field and complete the project, and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action.
The National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) says Nigeria's headline inflation rose to 29.9% in the month of January. A report by the NBS stated that the January 2024 headline inflation rate showed an increase of 0.98% points when compared to the 28.92% in December 2023, which broke a 20-year record high. The NBS said January's inflation was caused by increases in prices of bread and cereals, potatoes, yam and other tubers, oil and fat, fish, meat, fruits, coffee, tea and cocoa. The report also stated that food inflation increased by 35.41% on a year-on-year basis, which was 11.1% points higher when compared to the rates recorded in January 2023. It added that the highest increases were recorded in prices of passenger transport by road, medical services, actual and imputed rentals for housing, pharmaceutical products, accommodation service, and passenger transport by air. The Rivers State Police Command said one of its men, identified as Inspector Michael Ode, involved in an act of extortion, has been dismissed. Similarly, it disclosed that 2 other operatives involved in the act have been queried and recommended for dismissal, according to the established procedures. The spokesperson for the State Police Command, Grace Iringe Koko, confirmed the dismissal of the inspector and the recommendation for the dismissal of the 2 ASPs in a statement issued in Port Harcourt on Wednesday. Iringe Koko, a superintendent of police, said Ode's dismissal followed the conclusion of an orderly room trial by the command. The 3 operators, including 2 assistant superintendents of police, were arrested and detained for allegedly kidnapping and extorting $3,000 from 2 unidentified travelers in December last year. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, has identified Bauchi as one of the piloting states for the establishment of Special Intervention Squad and retraining of police personnel to address lingering security challenges throughout the country. He made the statement in Bauchi during a one-day working visit to the state. Trust TV's Adamu Imam files in this report.
The police boss, during an interactive session with officers and men of the Bauchi Police Command, says the new security initiative of establishing Special Intervention Squad and retraining of personnel is geared towards repositioning the police to respect and be respected anywhere they are.
We want a police force that all members of the police force will be proud of. We want you to wear this uniform and be proud that you are wearing your uniform. We will do everything possible to restore the past glory of the police.
At the courtesy call to the government house, Egbetokun noted that the state was carefully chosen among the first 10 states in view of its strategic advantage in addressing security challenges in northern part of the country. On his part, the state governor, Bala Mohammed, explained that demography is not helping matters as population explosion is on the high due to relative peace in Bauchi.
And the demographics is not helping us. People are coming because of our relative peace. We are a gateway to 7 states. We are a gateway to all the zones within the north, the northeast, the north central, and the northwest. And some of the activities of the federal government in the northwest is affecting us. Because as you said, you can see how intellect is deployed. We are fighting them in the northwest, they are running to northeast. And this is the route.
Also, as part of the visit, the IG commissioned office project at Mopol 10 at Inkili community constructed by the Tiami Rice Company Limited as part of corporate social responsibility. The wives of the junior officers of the community appreciate the gesture and use the advantage to appeal to the federal and state government to address their pressing needs for many years in the area.
The issue of the water and the lights. Then we don't have hospital here. We lost some of our wives. Our husband, they are used to go duty outside. They leave wife at home. So we are living lonely. Nothing. We cannot watch our TVs. We cannot watch news. Our children look like villagers' children. That if we brought them, we go to the town, they are looking some difference. So we are begging for them to come and help us.
Governor Bala Mohammed appealed to IGP to continue to support the State Police Command with the state-of-the-art facilities to enhance operations in dealing with kidnappings and armed banditry. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
In another development, there is a growing concern over rampant cases of sexual and gender-based violence against girls and women with disabilities in Osun State. And this has prompted the setting of a task force comprising key stakeholders in the state to ensure arrest and prosecution of perpetrators. Hamid Uyegbade files in this report.
The issue of sexual and gender-based violence against girls and women with disabilities in Osun State is disheartening. It is worrisome that most of such cases were not reported and perpetrators are allowed to go unpunished while the helpless victims grapple with the consequences.
Because of our condition, they can go to that place to do so many things that is not good to person with disability, which is not okay.
Key stakeholders in the state have resolved to work together to strengthen the existing sexual and gender-based violence prevention and response structure for women and girls with disabilities.
One is increased awareness so that there's prevention and less occurrences of abuses, the different forms of abuses. Now the focus, like I said, is also on women and girls with disabilities. The second thing is to try to strengthen the institutional framework, coordination and collaboration, so that the response system, which can also serve as a preventive system, is effective.
You know, most of this violence takes place at the community level, sometimes intimate partner violence and all that. So individual taking it upon themselves to be like watchdog to persons with disabilities at the community level, it will go a long way.
This government takes zero tolerance to crime, especially sexual crime or violence against female. So we take strict exceptions to it. So everything we need to do just to make Osun to be a safer place for everybody, we're going to, keen to same.
Officials of the Osun State Ministry of Justice, Women Affairs and Health, Police and Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, civil societies and community leaders, after a town hall meeting in Osogbo, set up a task force to ensure arrest and prosecution of perpetrators. Hamid Uyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Away from Osogbo now, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, says there's need for the declaration of a state of emergency in some states owing to heat waves. Some parts of the country are experiencing excessive heat in recent weeks, raising concern from Nigerians. Director of Weather Forecast Services Vincent Welly, who said the development might lead to a declaration of a state of emergency, noted that the move people should stay out of work within this period, especially when the sun is very high. This, he said, is because with high temperature, cognition will diminish while productivity will be affected, leading to loss of concentration. Well, he added that within the hours of 12 to 3 p.m., people should be excused from duty, especially those who work under the sun, adding that they can work morning and continue from 4 to 6 p.m. You're still watching the news update on Trust TV. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at how migrant polythene bags vendor combine trade with vigilante role. Details of this report and more after the break. Do stay with us.
Helter-skelter. Under cover of darkness or even in broad daylight, bandits and kidnappers have been wreaking havoc in the lives of some Kaduna residents.
Bala'in ya isa malam. Mun yi noma ba su bari mana da kaka. Tun abincin mu bai gama ba zo su cinye mana. Yanzu da abin da mu ci nema muke ba mu da shi sai an saya.
We don't sleep. Sometimes we run and hide in the uncompleted or they used to pursue us.
Unlike some regions, the lack of a designated IDP camp in Kaduna State leaves affected communities without government support.
I don't have any information reaching me that there are particular uncompleted structures were occupied by people that are migrated from areas that are bedeviled by the security issues.
What are the efforts of the government amidst this troubled state?
For obvious security reasons, we cannot be able to give you details blow by blow.
This is a story about the people chased away from their homes by bandits and kidnappers in Kaduna State and what the government is doing to address the humanitarian crisis.
Welcome back. You're still watching the news update. A recap of some of our top headlines. We told you earlier that Peter Obi clears the air on the corruption allegation controversy and the Labour Party. And Nigeria's headline inflation rises to 29.9% in January. And moving on to more news, cooking gas explosion which occurred in Lagos last week has claimed the lives of 3 out of the 5 victims. The victims, who were rushed to the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, LASUT, in Ikeja, died on Monday from a very high degree of burns sustained from the explosion. The cooking gas cylinder had exploded and trapped a 4-year-old girl, mother, grandfather, a grandmother, and her uncle in the apartment on Sunday. The incident, it was gathered, occurred after the oil the grandmother was using to fry meat suddenly caught fire, and efforts to control it got beyond their control, which led to the explosion of the cooking gas cylinder. A seasonal migration in northern Nigeria, which involves the movement of people to various urban centers in search of greener pastures, have remained a tradition among many in the region. The tradition, which is popularly known as Chimrani in Hausa community, makes many people settle permanently in their destination. But some of the migrants, like Umar, who is a polythene bag vendor in Gombe, are still going back to their village in Sokoto, where he's serving as a vigilante to protect their people against bandit attacks. Hassan Kohli has more.
As a polythene bags vendor, Umar Garba, a seasonal migrant from Gaukai Ward of Salami local government area of Sokoto State, is making a living in Gombe. Like most seasonal migrants, 37-year-old Umar said he is coming to Gombe during the dry season to earn a means of livelihood, as there is little or nothing to do in his community during this period of the year. I am a Politin Bags Bendo. When I come here and transact, I will be able to take care of myself while still sending money for my family too. While distributing polythene bags to small business owners and individuals, Umar is visiting his town occasionally, serving his community as vigilante to protect their village against bandits' attack. I have to go back home on several occasions for farming and most importantly to protect my village against bandits because we are facing security issues and we must protect ourselves. The government cannot do anything to protect us as it has many issues to deal with. Like many others, Umar's journey began in search of employment opportunities, often traveling long distances to find work during dry seasons. In a world of constant change and uncertainty, Umar's story serves as a reminder of the resilience found in the human spirit. Hassan Koli, Trust TV News, Gombe.
The Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission is currently considering relocating some of its units to Lagos. According to a memo dated February 14, 2024, the decision was to enhance its service delivery, reduce operational costs, and make adequate utilization of its assets in Lagos. The memo was signed by Kelechi Onyekachi-Ofegbo on behalf of the Commission. The development comes on the heels of the recent relocation of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria FAN headquarters to Lagos. And on the international scene, members of the Arab group say they have massive support among United Nations Security Council members to pass a draft resolution calling for ceasefire in Gaza. Palestinian Ambassador Riyad Mansour said the impending Israeli military invasion of Rafah would depopulate the Gaza Strip and urge council members to vote for the draft when it is advanced by Algeria. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations warned last week that the proposed resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire has put in sensitive negotiations for a prolonged humanitarian pause and release of all Israeli hostages in jeopardy. Linda Thomas-Greenfield told UN reporters on Friday that the U.S. is working on a strong, compelling proposal to release the Israeli hostages and get desperately needed humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza. Already, the Arab representative on the council circulated the draft resolution to the Security Council's 15-member last Wednesday. It does not mention the hostages, but instead demands that all parties comply with the international law, calls for unhindered access for humanitarian aid, and rejects the forced displacement of Palestinian civilian population. One person has died and 21 people wounded in a shooting in Missouri at the end of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl victory parade in the United States. Officials said that they treated 8 victims who were immediately life-threatening condition and 7 others who had suffered injuries that could prove life-threatening. According to report, 9 children among the wounded are expected to recover. Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves said officers responded immediately after the gunshot broke out and detectives who were on the scene quickly opened an investigation. The police said they have arrested 3 suspects in connection to the shooting. And in sport, head coach Isa Lademboso has invited a total of 30 players to the Flying Eagles camp ahead of the 13th All-African Games scheduled for the Ghanaian capital, Accra, next month. And Coach Boso will select the final 23 players that will fly Nigeria's flag at the African Games. The Flying Eagles will be aiming to go one step better after winning the silver medals at the last edition of the Games in Rabat, Morocco in 2019. Nigeria will play Uganda, South Sudan, Senegal and Tunisia in the group stage. Boso led the Under-20 boys to the quarterfinals of the last year's FIFA Under-20 World Cup finals in Argentina. Now, the board of the Nigeria National League, NNL, has resolved that the second stanza of the 2023-2024 will resume on Friday, the 1st of March 2024. The second stanza was earlier expected to resume on Friday, the 16th of February 2024. Rising from the meeting held on Wednesday, 14th February 2024 in Abuja, the NNL board said that the shift in date of resumption of the second stanza of the league is to enable clubs complete their mid-season registration and the medicals of such players. NNL board also congratulates the Super Eagles for their determination and doggedness that saw them finish as runner-up at the just concluded 34th African Cup of Nations AFCON held in Cote d'Ivoire. And with that, we have come to the end of the news update at this hour. For more news, programming and documentary, follow us across all our social media platforms. My name is Martia Umar. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned to Trust TV.